Welcome back, folks. Today we are doing another Dynasty Superflex Start 10 Tight End Premium mock draft. We're going to be trying Flock Fantasy's website out today for the mock draft because we were having some issue with some sleeper ADPs. As you guys can see on the screen here, we have almost a full docket, so only 3 auto picks. We'll have a lot of real-life Dynasty players in here. This is also going to include Dynasty rookie picks. So this is as exciting as it gets. You guys can get a good gauge on where some of these guys are going. This is a third round reversal, and the draft is going to begin in 7, 6, 5. If you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, like this video, and let me know what some of your guys' hot takes are for the offseason startup drafts. We are launching startup drafts all over the map for Dynasty Price Check this offseason. 10 listener leagues will be launched this offseason, so be prepared, be ready, get excited. If you want to play, join the Discord link that is pinned in the description here. Totally free to join, and let me know that you want to be in a listener league, and you can have a chance to draft with me. You can also participate in these mock drafts and be featured on the channel, so no better reason to hop on in as quick as possible. As you can see in a Superflex format here, you got Drake May off the board at the 101, overtaking Josh Allen these days. Bijan goes to Jackson Smith and Jigba at the 3rd spot, Josh Allen at the 4. Now we've got Jamar Chase, Jahmyr Gibbs, Puka Nacua coming off the board. I am at the 10 spot here. Hawks 24. Go Hawks. Let's hope we get a W against the San Francisco 49ers today. This is being recorded just a few minutes before kickoff. We got Amon-Ra St. Brown go off the board here. And now let's start thinking how we want to approach this draft, guys. We are including rookie picks, as you might remember, so I could potentially even reach and take one here. This is a tight end premium league, which is important to consider, so maybe even flirting with the idea of taking a Trey McBride here. Drake London's on the board, CeeDee Lamb goes, and there you have it, guys. I think at this point, you'd be looking, if you were me, to potentially maybe swing on a Malik Neighbors, maybe a Devon Achane. Maybe I'm going to go ahead and take a quarterback here. I'm honestly debating this. To be frank, I kind of like the idea of going Neighbors here. This is probably what I would standard do, is take my receiver here. That all being considered, though, seeing that this is a 3rd round reversal and I'm going to get another chance at receiver, I think I'm comfortably actually just going to take the best tight end off the board here and probably take Trey McBride. And I know that that is maybe a little non-standard, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to take Trey McBride here at the 110. So there you go. Trey McBride's going to go off the board. I'm still going to get a plenty of swings at quarterbacks here. You got Lamar Jackson going off the board. That's fine. I know he's fallen deeply. Probably could have taken Lamar there and wouldn't have been mad about it at all. Justin Jefferson's still on the board. Drake London's still on the board. 101, Malik Neighbors, Devon Achane. I mean, this is a loaded draft, including rookie picks. There's going to be a lot of chances to snag some premium players here. So I'm quite excited about how this is looking. There you go. You see Malik Neighbors go off the board at the 112, followed by Devon Achane. And quite frankly, I love that turn. I love that turn. If you're drafting from the 112 and you have a chance, even in a super flex, to pull something like that off, I think that's phenomenal process. So far, I am loving the build. You've got Lamar Jackson and Justin Jefferson being taken there. Absolutely no issue with that. At this point, I would potentially be considering taking a quarterback here. Patrick Mahomes has fallen to me. Drake London's still on the board. I don't want to miss my chance at getting a premium wide receiver asset here before it gets too deep down the board. You know, I could go really fun with this build and take Brock Bowers, since this is a tight end premium league, and just give myself a super definitive positional advantage here, which quite frankly sounds like a lot of fun. I'm leaning that direction. I wouldn't also hate taking the 101 here and just getting myself Jeremiah Love. I know Ashton Genty is, floating out there somewhere. We've got 10 seconds to go here, guys. I think the safe pick, just for my process here, would be Drake London, and the fun pick would be Brock Bowers, but I am going to go ahead and take Drake London here, just get myself a premium wide receiving asset, not get too complicated with it. I think I'll still have a good swing at either a young running back that I like with upside in the 3rd round reversal here, or potentially even take a swing at another receiver or quarterback that comes wrapping around to me. So we'll see which direction I decide to go based off the way the board will fall. But right now, Trey McBride, Drake London, maybe not my favorite start of all time, but as you guys are going to watch me do a mock draft every single week here on this channel, you'll see me pull off a lot of different builds. And I think part of the fun of doing some of these mock drafts is exploring with different team formats and seeing different ways to make teams. If you guys have followed a lot of my processes in the past and some of the startup drafts, season in reviews that I've done on this channel, you would know that I typically do lean a wide receiver build. I normally take 2 wide receivers right out the gate here. And so, I think switching it up a little bit, seeing you guys watch me change my draft strategy and still pivot and try to build a good squad could be beneficial to you. So as we saw there, the 101 goes off the board. Jeremiah Love goes off the board, 1 pick after me. Again, I was very much leaning that direction. I very much was tempted to take that 101. And quite frankly, I might have done it differently in hindsight, but again, I'm narrating. I'm doing the draft in real time here, and this will be a process as we go along. But the picks really start to run there. You got Brock Bowers go, then Jaden Daniels, all the way to the 2-8. I mean, talk about Jaden Daniels being at the 1-3 comfortably last offseason, and now being drafted in the mid to late second round. Could be a great value for you depending on how you view Jaden Daniels. I personally am not the biggest Jaden Daniels guy. I would be, fading him any time before probably the end of the second, early third round. That's just me. I don't typically go that direction with my builds anyway, but no shade to those that do. There's plenty of different ways to construct a winning dynasty team, and not necessarily my way is always the best way, although I do win a lot of leagues. Hey, here we go. Ashton Genty goes off the board, and so interesting to kind of see the difference between where people are viewing Jeremiah Love and Ashton Genty, at least as far as this group is considered. Obviously we had, the Jeremiah Love pick go off the board at the 2-4. Genty doesn't go till the very end of the round. I think obviously that has to do a lot with the landing spot and the path that the Raiders have to deal with here in order to be able to pull off a successful rebuild. Now, Amari and Hampton goes off the board right afterwards. I was kind of hoping Hampton would fall all the way to me, give me a chance at a premium running back that I like. But Garrett Wilson goes off at the 3-1 here. And, now Mikey's going to get a chance. I love the build, personally, going on over at the 112 here. Malik Neighbors, Garrett Wilson, Devon Achane set up really well for the future. Quite frankly, for me, if Jackson Dart doesn't go here, I think I'm going to take him. And I know a lot of people are going to say, why wouldn't I take Justin Herbert? I just think the youth and the age behind Dart, plus the mix of the rushing upside, is exciting. Now, I did say I'd take Dart here. Rashee Rice is looking pretty tempting as well. Give me 2 premium wide receivers right out the gate. I could punt quarterback a bit further, and I think that is what I'm going to do, simply because rookie picks are involved here. I think it's going to allow some quarterbacks to fall a bit deeper. I've got my eye on guys like Brock Purdy, who you guys all know I love. Trevor Lawrence, who I think is an extremely, extremely solid value pick in drafts this year. And then obviously, as I mentioned, with some of the rookie picks being well available on the board, I don't mind doing it. But it's been good to talk through this process, guys. If you are looking at taking a guy like Jackson Dart or Justin Herbert in the early third round, I have absolutely no issues with it. In fact, like I was mentioning, that would probably be the direction I would go. I see that Rice has a little bit of risk baked into him with the Patrick Mahomes injury, and so I am going to take Rashee Rice here, but and assume some of the risk. And I know some people would be like, you're taking Rice over Nico Collins, a little bit of a stretch. Yes, I just think tiny bit younger, a little bit higher ceiling, especially if Kelsey ends up stepping away from the game here in the next year or two. And I do think Jaden Higgins is primed for a serious breakout next year. Now, how big of a breakout that is obviously remains to be seen, but I do think he is going to eat into the workload of Nico Collins a little bit. And sure, Nico Collins, wide receiver 7 this year. How far is he going to drop? Maybe to what, wide receiver 11? Is it that massive of a difference? That's up for debate. But, I just think leaning Rashee Rice there, made me feel good about the build so far. Trey McBride, Drake London, Rashee Rice. As you see, Caleb Williams goes off the board after me. Personally, a guy I fade in startup drafts. No hate to anybody who doesn't, but I just haven't seen enough from Caleb to feel confident. I think his footwork is a mess. I think his accuracy in the pocket leaves a lot to be desired. And I just think the Bears in general are a little bit of an interesting franchise. I know they had a real breakout this year with Ben Johnson, but I'm not sure if I can trust that entirely. They play in a tough division as well, so I think my skepticism remains valid there. Now, Nico Collins still being on the board is wild, to be honest. I think this is a great value pick for whoever's going to get him here. George Pickens goes 3.6. Dart did go the 3.5, and so far, Big Kahuna here. Shout out to him. I like this build. Amon-Ra gets the consistent production, right? Wide receiver 3 for 3 seasons in a row. Love it. Okay. Then afterwards, you get 2 solid quarterbacks, Joe Burrow, Jackson Dart. Love to see that. Incredible QB build and a super flex there. You're set up for the future. One guy, traditional pocket passer, one guy offering you a ton of rushing upside. I think so far I love the build. Blicky here, great build as well. He takes Puka Nacua. He's going to get a solid either quarterback or wide receiver here. You could say, oh, he's going to take Mendoza at the 1-2. Could take Jordan Tyson at the 1-2. A lot of upside there. Gets George Pickens. Clearly, he's going probably wide receiver build here. No issue with that. Like I said, I've done plenty of those in the past, and they tend to work out quite well. Now, Jack over here is doing quite the job as well. He takes 2 premium running backs in Gibbs and Henderson, sandwiches Brock Bowers in between in that tight end premium to set him apart. The Mason bot over here is actually doing quite well. Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Tyler Warren. I like this build as well. You've got 2 premium quarterbacks here. Gives you a ton of flexibility in a super flex. And then over here, we got ultimate wide receiver U. JSN, Ted McMillan, Chris Olave. I think very solid. Quite surprised to see Chris Olave go above Nico Collins. I mean, I do really like Chris Olave, and if you guys remember from my wide receiver updated Dynasty rankings, which is on this channel, so go check it out if you haven't already. I had them very close together in that video as well, but I think the end of the season surge for Nico Collins really made a good case there. Now, MJ Walsh here is going to take his first receiver with Emeka Egbuka. I loved the build to start. I'm a bit lower on Egbuka than the community. I would clearly be taking Nico here. That's just me. I think Egbuka is, had the early season massive explosion, but happened to fall off quite a bit once the Tampa Bay Buccaneers got a bit healthier with that wide receiver room. Mike Evans came back. Chris Godwin came back. Jalen McMillan got off the IR. Baker Mayfield obviously was struggling with an injury to some degree and has looked a lot less lethal the second half of the season than he was to start. All those things being considered, I think Egbuka is one of those guys that I still think has a lot of upside from a talent prospect profile, but the genuine level of fantasy production you are going to get out of him and the consistency that you are looking to rely on him week in and week out doesn't give me any sort of confidence having him as my wide receiver 1. Now, the positive is Walsh rights his wrongs and takes Nico Collins at the 4-1. And since he had the back-to-back, no issue here, right? And now this build's looking quite nice, right? We got Drake May, Amarian Hampton, Nico Collins, Egbuka. Purdy goes off at the 4-2. Bummer to see him go this early. I thought I was going to get a swing at Brock Purdy, to be frank, at the end of the 4th round here. But, Lawrence goes earlier than I expected here as well. And now at this point, you do have to be a little worried about quarterback. To be frank with you guys, I'm eyeing CJ Stroud if he makes it to me here. I know some people might feel a little bit less confident in that, but I personally have no issue with it. Bucky is dropping down the board, and it might be a little tempting at that spot, but quite frankly, I'm not the biggest Bucky Irving guy, as you guys know, and I think the lack of consistency and the fact that they're still using Sean Tucker and Rachaad White, even after Bucky's now so-called back and healthy, when the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are in a must-win position. Like, they are doing everything they can to try to make the playoffs right now. In fact, the game right now going on against the Panthers is going to determine that. So, I would just like to see a lot more out of Bucky in the second half of the season. One thing that has made me quite interested to see here, guys, is Jonathan Taylor went at the 4-6 in one of my last listener leagues that I did before kicking off the season, and I know that because I took him at the 4-6. Now, he's still there at the 4-5. I would have thought he would have moved up after the performance this season, but maybe the second half of the season added some qualms for people. So then we see Harold Fannin go far above where I expected him to go in this draft. That is quite the swing. I would not be taking Browns offensive players this early. Now, as I say that, Judkins is staring me in the mouth on the board here, and I'm kind of tempted. But I think realistically, guys, I am going to take Stroud here, and I know it sounds crazy to take him over Baker, but I'm going to do it. I know Jordan Love's still on the board, and some other folks might fight me on this, but I'll feel a lot better about having a cornerstone quarterback just for the rest of the process of my draft. And sometimes I like to do that. When we talk about startup strategy, I think not all of it is, did I get all the best players? Did I get all my favorite guys? All these things. Some of it also is, do I feel comfortable moving forward in the startup now? And I think the CJ Stroud pick allows me now the flexibility to not take a quarterback at the next wraparound, which I have only, in only 5 picks here. And I think if I hadn't have taken CJ Stroud here, I would feel really hard pressed at the next pick to snag a Jordan Love or a guy that isn't one of my favorites anyway. And so I think that this does allow me the flexibility now to potentially, maybe I'll take the 105 rookie pick here and give myself some liquidity for the future. Maybe I'll fade rookies altogether and take some of the players that are still on the board. I mean, Breece Hall is still on the board, guys, and I'm not going to lie. I'm a little tempted to take a swing at Breece Hall. Kyron Williams is on the board. Bucky Irvin's fallen down the board here. I think that there's definitely some interesting prospects, and I'm kind of hoping Bucky goes here because if he doesn't, I'm feeling a bit squeezed to take him. And to be frank, I think a better debate is, are you taking Kyron or Breece Hall, or are you taking Saquon Barkley here? I know Saquon had quite the fall off from where he was last season, but getting him in the 5th round is pretty insane value, seeing that he was a mid to late 2nd round startup pick last season. And I know he had a down year, guys, but on the deal he's on and the current state of that Eagles team, I think you'd be hard pressed to find anyone that doesn't agree Saquon's at least got 2 more top tier seasons in him, and then maybe 1 more season after that. So this is where it gets tough because, yes, Sam Laporta goes off the board. Quite the crazy pick for me. You've got guys like Ladd McConkey and Bucky Irving still on the board here. You've got tons of rookie picks on the board. You got Kyron Williams. You got Breece Hall. You got Saquon, like I mentioned, and I'm not going to lie, I'm kind of tempted to take a swing on him here. I am leaning running back just based off the build of this team. But Brian Thomas Jr. has fallen this far, and quite frankly, I think sometimes you got to go best player available. This is brutal, guys. You're watching my thought process happen in real time here. I think I'm leaning to take BTJ here because if he does have the bounce back you would hope he does, you're getting quite the steal. But I also think Breece Hall is going to go to a better position here, and I think that's where I'm going to go. It's risky, but I am taking Breece Hall here. I'm taking Breece Hall at the 5-3. I'm going to take my first running back. I'm going to put some stock into the fact that he is going to leave the New York Jets and give me a solid amount of upside. And I knew Bucky was going to go next, but I'm not going to lie, guys, and this might be a hot take in the Dynasty community. I would probably be taking Breece Hall over Bucky, and not just probably, I just did. I think the situation in Tampa Bay right now has made me very tentative about how Bucky Irving is going to be used moving forward. And I know you could make the argument, well, to start the season when he was healthy, he was giving you, RB2 with RB1 upside. That's true, but the landscape of fantasy football changes at the drop of a hat. And since the beginning of the season, you've watched Bucky have quite the fall off. And, whether it's injuries, whether it's working him back slowly, there's a lot to consider here. I just think Breece Hall, from a potential workhorse back profile, wherever he signs in free agency next year, that's how they're going to use him. I mean, you're not going to pay Breece Hall and then not give him the majority of the touches. So I am probably taking a solid bet here that Breece Hall is, going to potentially sign with the Houston Texans, the Kansas City Chiefs, somewhere that'll offer him a ton of upside. The wild thing that we're seeing here, guys, is the element of rookie picks and the changing landscape has allowed guys like Brian Thomas Jr. to fall all the way to the 5-7, Ladd McConkey to fall all the way to the 5-8. You are going to have an incredible amount of flexibility as far as your real-life startups go this offseason, and it is exciting. The amount of depth and talent and available resources on the board going all the way probably now to the 8th, 9th round is extremely tempting. I mean, you have some awesome players out there. And so let's look at some of these builds. We see the 105 rookie pick go off the board here. And so now he's holding the 104 and the 105 on top of Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Tyler Warren. And quite frankly, when we talk about this rookie class, what's the strength of the class? It's wide receiver. And so for a team that's taken no wide receivers, this is actually ending up, ironically, as a bot, looking great, right? Because at the 104, you're probably getting, either Carnell Tate, Jordan Tyson, or Kai Lemon. One of the three, right? One of them has to fall there. At the 105, you're either going to get a swing at another receiver, or you could take, whoever your top running back off the board outside of Jeremiah Love is, and give yourself really a young rookie build. Now, this team is probably more of a punting team, a little bit interesting build, obviously with two quarterbacks that are win now. But again, to each their own, and obviously, the draft's going to fall a certain way here. Had Bijan, Ashton Genty, you had the 103 here, so you're probably imagining the first receiver goes. He gets his two quarterbacks here, and Cam Ward goes a lot higher than I expected him to, but, above Baker Mayfield. But Cam Ward showed you some really nice signs of flashes towards the end of the season, and he's quite frankly a dynasty buy for me right now before people catch up. And I think the Titans with another top pick could, either add some more weapons for Cam Ward or give him better protection moving forward. They do have cap space to work with entering the offseason here. MJ Walsh here, we got to give him a shout out. For a man that I was saying I didn't love the Ibuka pick, he is smashing wide receiver value right now. And this build is looking quite tasty. I mean, Drake May, Amari and Hampton. Now we've got 4 wide receivers, and this is a, start 10, like I mentioned at the beginning. So you were going to be starting 3 wide receivers, and you have 2 flex spots. So, really high upside play here for MJ Walsh. I quite frankly, I love the build so far. Now, you have Mason Taylor go off the board quite early here. I did mention it's a tight end premium, and tight ends have really started to run, so feeling a little squeezed, but this is too high for my liking. I'd be waiting there. I'd personally wait and take Terrence Ferguson a few rounds later, who I like a lot. Now, Cam Skadaboo fell super far. That's such a bummer. I was going to take Cam Skadaboo at my next pick, so that's devastating to see. Was really hoping I'd get the value there, but you got Zay Flowers, Baker Mayfield, Jordan Love, Cam Skadaboo, and so now I got to kind of be looking at what I want to do next, so I'm not even in the whole thing out on the board here, but quite frankly, Saquon's still on the board, and there he goes. That's where I was going to go next, so, Blicky's reading my mind over here. Good build from Blicky. He's got the 102 here, James Cook, Saquon Barkley. I don't love the Jameson Williams pick this early. I mean, I would take Brian Thomas Jr. over Jameson Williams any day of the week and twice on Sunday, but that's just me. Some interesting players still on the board here, guys, as we scroll down. I know you got guys like Chase Brown and Ken Walker, who's way down these rankings. I have no issue taking Kenny Walker there. Tucker Kraft still on the board, and quite frankly, I might swing and take Tucker Kraft here and just get another premium tight end on the board. Travis Hunter does not tickle my fancy at all. A.J. Brown might be a sneaky pick here, and to be frank, I might go that direction as well, just giving you guys my full thought process here. I do think he lands somewhere else next season. As we mentioned, Colston Loveland's still on the board. George Kittle's still on the board. Rookie picks are still available, which we are at what rookie pick went last? The 105. So you got the 106 still on the board for a rookie pick here. Probably pretty fair value, but to be frank, I'd rather have Jared Goff than the 106. I'll probably end up taking another QB here before I take a rookie pick, and that's probably where we're at, guys. I think if Jared Goff's still on the board when it comes to me here, I think I'll take him. I know some people are a little paused on that one after the Lions flame out at the end of the season here, but let's be real. Jared Goff's still giving you top 12 production every season here, and there you go. Josh Jacobs was one of the other guys I was looking at here. Just for your guys' information, I would be tempted to take Kenneth Walker here. I know that's probably way above ADP. I do think, he gets a nice extension this offseason and sees a value boost. Here we are looking at the wide receiver position. Nobody here in this range that I'm in love with. I think Devonta Smith could be a sneaky play, as I mentioned with A.J. Brown. But quite frankly, guys, the way I'm going to reason this out for you so you can see it here is I'm looking at the tight end position, and I would love to take Kraft here, personally, and just double up on tight end in a tight end premium. I can always flex another one. But seeing that Jake Ferguson and George Kittle and Kyle Pitts and some other guys are on the board here, I feel less inclined. I feel more squeezed to take a receiver here or a quarterback, and that's what I'm going to do is I am going to take the quarterback here. So I'm going to take Jared Goff here and just shore up my quarterback room so I feel nice and comfortable moving forward. Now I don't have to worry about quarterback the rest of the draft. Like, I will be fine taking a swing on a third string quarterback, just to get my backup. Hell, even grab the handcuff for my QB here with like a Davis Mills in the 19th round. I know it's not the sexiest of processes, but now I have ultimate flexibility, right? And so I think next you're clearly looking at either running back, wide receiver, or tight end. And, I do have obviously the opportunity to maybe take a rookie pick there too, but I think I'm going to stick, mostly with a build that I like here and probably lean wide receiver. Assuming A.J. Brown's still on the board here, I would take him. And I know some people would be like, oh, so you have A.J. Brown over the 106 then? Yeah, I think I do. And to be frank, I'm very tempted to take Tucker Kraft at the next swing as well. So we'll see how this board falls for me here, but I'm pretty happy either way. This draft is lining up nicely for me, and if we want to talk about my current positioning, you got Trey McBride. So I have my, real difference maker here. I got the premium tight end. And outside of that, I stacked myself with two young upside wide receivers, Drake London and Rashee Rice. Now I've got two solid quarterbacks in a super flex here, guys that can give me top 15 production. I know Stroud had a little bit of a down year. I think he still, is an ascending asset. And then I get Breece Hall, and you could say, yeah, you got some risk in the running back room. I won't fight you on that one. There's definitely some risk there, but as I mentioned, I think in the next turnaround, there's still going to be guys, hopefully, like Travis Etienne or Ken Walker that I could take a swing on. Now, if both those guys go, then I am going to be pretty hard-pressed for running back, and I think that's probably the argument to make a running back pick here instead of swinging on a guy like Tucker Kraft. Now, receiver doesn't interest me much anymore. I could take a swing on Devonta Smith and get my third guy here, but quite frankly, guys, there's a lot of good receivers still on the board. I mean, there's guys that I have absolutely no problem rolling as a wide receiver 3, like with Jacoby Myers next season, or even a Chris Godwin next season. I already have my young studs. I don't know if I need to prioritize age at the wide receiver position. I mean, I say it all the time, guys. There is production everywhere at the wide receiver position for cheap. Guys like Devontae Adams, yeah, I don't care if you're getting 1 year out of him. He was wide receiver 6 before his injury this year. So you could easily take him, and that's what happens. Devonta Smith goes off the board right before me. A.J. Brown was taking a couple picks beforehand. And so at this point, I'm looking at this running back and tight end position and saying, do I take another premium tight end here, or do I go running back? I think the issue is there is rookie picks on the board here, and I do want to do the best pick or player available simply for you guys to see how I would actually set up a team, because personally, I need a running back here. And taking Travis Etienne would probably be the direction I'd go, slightly over Kenneth Walker here. However, with no contract insulation yet, although I think he ends up in Jacksonville, I think that the clear pick here is to take a rookie pick, and I think that's what I'm going to do. I do feel inclined to take Tucker Kraft here, though, in a tight end premium, and I think I'm going to do it. I'm going to take Tucker Kraft. Oh, well, I guess I got auto-picked to Luther Burden. That's unfortunate, but you know what? It happens to the best of us. I was talking. So there you go. I talked my pick out on that one. Definitely not ideal, as that was not going to be what I wanted to do, but it happened. So it's okay. I think, to be frank, a lot of people like Luther Burden, and he's going to get an offseason hype boost here. So probably could move Luther Burden for a decent package of some sort. It is unfortunate when things like that happen, because now my build is definitely messed up comparatively to where I wanted to be. So you guys, this is what happens. We do it live. You guys are walking the path with me. At least you got to hear my whole thought process on exactly where I would have liked to go there, and you can imagine it in your heads. But it's a bummer. It's a bummer nonetheless. I'm not going to dwell on it too much here, because I want to get back to reviewing some of these other builds and teams, but I would have rather taken the 106 there. I think it's just funny because some of the folks in my chat that are doing this with me are probably like, what the hell is Stan doing? He does not value Luther Burden that high, and they're correct. I would way rather have the 106 than Luther Burden, but that's okay. Life moves on. As we can see here, the previous player before me did take Devonta Smith. It's a little cut off for you guys, and he took Javonte Williams earlier on there. Quite the interesting pick, but I do understand, Williams probably ends up back in Dallas, I would hope. Now you got the rookie picks running, which I'm not surprised by. Colston Loveland goes. Now, unfortunately, I know MJ Walsh here, and he's going to get Tucker Kraft because of my mistake. And he is a huge Green Bay Packers fan. He is a massive Tucker Kraft owner. And I think it's going to make it to him, which is funny. So he is going to get his dream build here and be super thrilled. I'm happy for him. But that was, again, my mistake. So it's okay. But again, I got to stop talking about that or else we're going to be on it all day. Now, the next few picks were interesting, right? You saw the rookie picks go. Colston Loveland at great value here to get their first premium tight end. Blicky's got a nice build going here outside the Jameson Williams pick. I don't love that one. I would have for sure taken a quarterback here. And, obviously you got Jordan Love, Baker Mayfield that fell, Jared Goff, Dak Prescott, even Cam Ward. I would have taken a quarterback. That's just me. But regardless, I think this is a good build. Kyler Murray at good value here, taking swings on quarterback. Obviously, this spot's just loading the quarterback position up. All the quarterback trading in this league is going to have to go through him. MJ Walsh, shockingly, does not take Tucker Kraft. He might fall all the way to me next round. That would be incredible, and I would do that. But Daniel Jones goes at the 7-10 here. I still think he gets the extension. Really good value on a Daniel Jones here. To be frank, if I had known Daniel Jones would have made it this far, I might have waited on Jared Goff because I do think Daniel Jones is great value. Sam Darnold's a super safe pick here. Really getting great value on a guy who's locked up on contract, probably going to win 14 games again this year, which is wild, and break all kinds of quarterback records. He's going to be a guy this offseason that I think I pick up in a lot of drafts just because of the value, simply. And so then you get Travis Hunter at the 7-12. Don't love that pick. You won't catch me drafting Travis Hunter at all this offseason. I think an interesting insight into the Jacoby Myers deal in Jacksonville is, does that mean Travis Hunter is probably going to end up playing more DB? I think the answer is yes. You have Brian Thomas Jr., you have Parker Washington, who's actually looked pretty decent at times this season, and then you have now Jacoby Myers locked up on contract for 3 years. I would say that signifies Travis Hunter might be used a bit more on the DB front now, but that's where the situation is. Now, Tucker Kraft does go off the board here, and that's a bummer. I was hoping he would fall all the way down to me. At this point, I am eyeing Ken Walker and Travis Etienne here. And unfortunately, as I say that, Ken Walker goes, and if Travis Etienne goes next, your boy is going to be pretty upset. Rookie picks on the board still. We're up to the 108, so I probably would consider taking a rookie pick here as well. It's just a bummer. I'm not going to harp on it. I didn't love the way that obviously I got auto-picked there. I was talking too much. But, Tyler Shook goes next, and that's good. I think that does open the door for me to take Travis Etienne. And while I won't lie, guys, I probably think in a vacuum, if you're already in an existing league right now, I probably still prefer the 109 just based off the flexibility that it gives me and the potential value on the open market. But this is a mock draft, and we're just having fun. And based off my team build, I personally would be smashing Travis Etienne here, which is what I'm going to do. It just seems like the most logical pick as far as what I need on this team. Have no other RB2s, and at that point, I'm swinging on a Derrick Henry, a Woody Marks, Kyle Monungai. I mean, I love Charbonnet as much as the next guy, and even Tyler Algier here, who I think is like a sneaky, potential starting running back for next year that I'm buying in a lot of my dynasty leagues right now. Regardless of that fact, just couldn't miss my chance at a true workhorse running back. And seeing that this running back draft class isn't super confident, in my opinion, nobody I love. I think that's the direction we go. And quite frankly, guys, look at the receivers that are still on the board here. I got Wan'Dale Robinson, Jaden Higgins, Devontae Adams, DK Metcalf has fallen like crazy. I mean, I think it's a smash here. So I'm liking the way that this draft is shaping up for me outside the Burden pick. Quite frankly, if I had a rookie pick here, the 106 instead of Burden, I'd be thrilled with this build so far. I think next I probably either will take a rookie pick or swing on a wide receiver here. Now Kyle Pitts goes off the board here, which is interesting. I don't actually hate it. He was a guy that probably is going to get a really nice value boost this offseason. At this point, I'm going to veer off the tight end position. I could see taking DK Metcalf here, or maybe even swinging at Devontae Adams for a completely contending build, and getting it done. Wan'Dale Robinson's probably got some upside here. as well. At running back, Derrick Henry's on the board, and so I'm tempted to smash it and just ride him one more season here. But quite frankly, I just don't think that's the right move. Michael Penix is a sneaky value here. Get the third quarterback. If this was a real money league, I'd probably consider actually taking Michael Penix here, guys, just to get my third quarterback and offer me a ton of flexibility moving forward. But I think pretty clearly here, I got to take my first rookie pick, which is going to be the 109. So I'll take the 109 here, and that's okay. Wait, oops, I did take a rookie pick, and it accidentally logged as mid first. That's totally my bad. I am screwing up this draft, guys. I am screwing up this draft. It's okay. That's the 109. I meant that as the 109. So let's hope that I could do that. Can I drag this out? No, I can't make any edits. Of course not. That would be far too convenient. Well, let's just assume that's the 109. We're dealing with some issues here. It's okay. People have had other. I didn't even notice. We've got early 27 picks going here. I didn't even know that was on the board. I don't think that should be allowed in drafts here. I think you only play with the current rookie picks. I don't know why these picks are going off the board. It's probably skewing things a little bit. So that's all right. We're just having fun. Today's a have fun day. Okay, guys. I hope this is still bringing you some value. Comment your questions here, and we'll be doing a ton more of these. I'm going to do a mock draft every single week. So, hopefully things go a little smoother for the next one, but you guys are getting a good value, especially in the first, 6 or 7 rounds here of where guys are going. Now we've got receivers just going like crazy, okay? It looks like I take a rookie pick, then we got nonstop Devontae Adams, Jaden Higgins, Wan'Dale Robinson, Jordan Addison, 109. We got Xavier Worthy, DK Metcalf, Cortland Sutton, then we've got Matthew Golden, a 27 mid first round pick. Again, these picks probably shouldn't be in this draft, but I had never done Flock Fantasy before. I just wanted to test it out for you guys. It's pretty fun. It's nice. A little bit of a change up from Sleeper. Nice to have the rookie picks in here so you don't have to use placeholders. Too many rookie picks are in here. I probably should have limited that if there's a way to before we started, but I'm just talking out loud now. You see Matthew Golden go off the board here. Not surprised, as I called out my Packers fan earlier. He gets one of his Packers, and he gets another rookie pick. We're only going to go a couple more rounds here, guys, but I think it'll still be helpful to see kind of my thought process on valuing some guys out. As we talk about team builds here, comment what you guys think your favorite team build is so far. I think as I mentioned with Blicky here, I like the team build a lot. I like Kahuna's team build a lot here. Obviously it's extremely running back needy. I feel like, Ken Walker, Kyron Williams, not terrible, but lacking some top end production there. But then I'm the pot calling the kettle black here, as I am simply sitting with Breece Hall and Travis Etienne. So not exactly the shining example of running back production as well. Now, as time drops here, there's some guys on the board that I find are interesting. Troy Franklin might be an upside play for me here. Some quarterbacks have already gone. In the running back department, we've still got guys like Zach Charbonnet on the board, which is probably one of the directions I'd be looking next. Gadsden's fallen pretty significantly here. Tight end might be one of the best values still on the board. Wide receivers really taken a huge run. And so at this point, you're probably like, do I want to swing upside on some of these young wide receiver prospects, which I don't hate. I think Jacoby Myers, a productive asset, goes off the board there. Obviously, like I said, I'd probably be fine having him over Luther Burden. So I'm sound like a broken record with that pick, but it happened. Still some quarterbacks on the board. If you wanted to swing on Shedeur, this is probably your chance. I'm not going to go that route. Ironically, some of the best value on the board still lands at the running back position. I know it's not the sexiest pick, but I feel inclined to maybe take DeAndre Swift here. It feels dirty. Tyler Allgeier's on the board. Zach Charbonnet's on the board. At this point, I'm probably just taking rookie picks. I'm just going to smash more rookie picks, guys. I'll take the 111 here. I think it's just like, again, as we talk process, I want to try to make this as realistic as possible for you. There's nobody that I'm taking over a first at this point. Again, if we look at the running back board, Woody Marks, not worth a first. Trey Benson, not worth a first. Jalen Warren, not worth a first. Love Zach Charbonnet, not worth a first. Then we look at the wide receiver room, and Brandon Ayuk, hell no. Khalil Shakir, no. DJ Moore, no. Michael Wilson's been playing well. He might be worth an early second. There's a guy. Troy Franklin might be worth an early second. That's a guy. But I'm still just not passing up the firsts here. Kincaid in a tight end premium maybe worth a late first, but again, I just don't feel as confident enough. I think at this point we're just smashing the firsts, and it might be a little boring, but I think that's what we're doing. Just stacking my liquidity for the future, giving me chances to prepare for the offseason here, and that's mainly the strategy. Derrick Henry does go off the board right after me here, as you guys can see, just barely. But, Mikey needed another running back after having Judkins. Javonte Williams probably wanted his win now asset in Derrick Henry, and he was one of the best on the board. Again, it's been a little skewed with the rookie picks here, but you got DeAndre Swift and Mac Jones go off the board. That's a really fun call out there with Mac Jones. As you guys can see, Mac Jones goes, and he's probably going to be a starter somewhere next year, so that's exciting. At this point, I feel like people are probably fading some of the rookie picks, and I don't blame them. Again, like I said, guys, I would be taking a rookie pick here if this is a real draft, especially since technically the 112 is still on the board. No, actually it just went, so it would be the 201. At this point, this is probably where I'm going to test some of the young guys. So I think I'd be inclined with my running back room to probably take Zach Charbonnet before we get too thinned out. There's still receivers that I don't mind taking on the wraparound next round. I would hope like a guy like Alec Pierce, who's a free agent, who's a buy for me in Dynasty right now, falls back around to me. No quarterbacks, as I mentioned, that I like, so we're going to take Sharbs here and just get her done. Again, in a tight end premium here, and if I didn't have a tight end, I'd have Kincaid probably valued above him. Maybe even a guy like Theo Johnson, and I really like Terrence Ferguson, as you guys know, so maybe I'll take a swing at Terrence Ferguson on the next wraparound here. But again, guys, I mean, there's the 201 on the board, so if this is real, I'd probably be taking the 201 over Zach Charbonnet in a vacuum. It's close. It's very close, but, I think it's just where we are. I'm hoping that it looks like most of these guys are probably going to go with real players at this point, just since the rookie pick landscape has gotten a little bit convoluted. But again, shouting out some of the team builds here, I think Jack's got an interesting one to highlight here. Jahmyr Gibbs and Travion Henderson locks his two running backs up and then gets Kim Skadaboo, who was RB8 overall before the injury. And so really, really great running back room here. Gets his premium tight end early. Takes a good quarterback here with Trevor Lawrence to give him the building blocks. I think the real issue I have with this team is the lack of wide receivers, right? And, you're rolling with Brian Thomas Jr. as wide receiver 1. You got, a rookie pick here, which at the time looked like it was going to be the 108. So he got the 108. That's a bit late to be relying on your wide receiver 2, especially since you only have BTJ, who was a complete dice roll this year. He does get Jordan Addison, who I like with a lot of upside. Troy Franklin goes off the board there, a guy that I was going to take a swing on if he wrapped back around to me. Now we're got, firsts coming in, and these picks are kind of placeholders. The bots obviously are getting a little confused. I don't blame them. Michael Wilson goes off the board, so hopefully we can stick to just real players at this point. I think Michael Wilson is a sneaky pick. I mean, I would take him way above Quentin Johnston. I don't have Quentin Johnston ranked anywhere near there. I probably would have taken Michael Wilson as well in front of Matthew Golden, which I know sounds a little reactionary, but I just think Matthew Golden showed you almost nothing in this rookie season, and Michael Wilson at least has lined up a stretch, which was almost half the season at this point, of true wide receiver 1 alpha production, which sounds crazy to say, but it's just the fact of the matter is that's true. He gave you alpha production. Now we got a guy milking the clock here for you, and he's determining what he wants to do. We'll see if this ends up being an auto pick. Yeah, the 202 goes off the board. DJ Moore, Stephon Diggs. Man, Walsh is just loading that wide receiver room up. The 203, Deebo Samuel, Woody Marks goes. It looks like this guy just had a totally glitch pick. So sorry, Flock Fantasy, you're having some website issues here, but we appreciate you having updated ADPs at least. That's better than I can say for Sleeper. So shout out to Flock for that one. Would love to do a little collab someday with some of the Flock Fantasy guys and talk Dynasty ball. I think I have a lot different strategy than a lot of the folks over in that side of the house, so it would be fun to do a little trade talk or something. So hey, if you're a Flock Fantasy member or know anybody, you wanna link up and do come on my Dynasty Trade Titans trade show and talk some Dynasty values, Your boy would be thrilled. Your boy would be thrilled. Shout out to the Dynasty Domain guys out there. I've watched some of their stuff this last year, and I don't agree with all their takes, but they're doing great work for you over there. And man, they got a beautiful setup. I got to give them props on that. They look good. They got the background with all the nice lighting and memorabilia. Shout out. All I got back here is a nice little chill guy painting done by my roommate. Great painter, and Seattle Supersonics. Just trying to give a shout out to my guys here. So there you go. We got the Seahawks and the Niners gearing up to kick off here, and hopefully we can get this draft done so that I can lock in and be super pumped about that. But we've got a couple more picks going off the board here. David Montgomery, Malik Willis goes here. Nice little shout to Blicky on Malik Willis. He's stacking some quarterbacks here. My man did not draft a single quarterback, and he wanted to go budget quarterback. So he ends up taking Shedeur Sanders and Malik Willis, who's probably banking on being a starter next year. Pretty fun. Tyler Algier goes. That was going to be my guy next just to give me some upside, but it's all good. At this point, I'm probably swinging on wide receivers or taking another tight end, and tight ends are on the board, so I'll just take Kincaid here. Might as well give me some upside, in the tight end department here. We still got running backs on the board that are totally relevant, and so that's interesting. But to be frank, guys, it looks like this mock draft is slowing down a bit, and since we're at the later rounds anyway, I'm probably just going to call it here after my next pick for your benefit. Obviously, we will be doing one every single week, like I mentioned before, so you'll get plenty of swings to see us do some deeper round mock drafts. It just looks like we're losing steam, and I don't want this video to run hours here. So Rico Dowdle goes off the board. Jalen Warren goes off the board. Now people are just stacking running backs. I don't mind that. Give yourself some running backs. Like I always say when we talk Dynasty strategy, guys, this is the range to do it. 12 to round 16. Just start taking all the backups and touch split guys you can because you're going to get relevancy out of them. Chuba Hubbard, you're smashing that. Tyler Algier, like we talked about, Zach Charbonnet, David Montgomery, Woody Marks, Jalen Warren. Guys like Ramondre Stevenson, he's still under contract. J.K. Dobbins is going to go somewhere and be productive again next year. So I'd just be smashing running backs in this round. There's still some wide receivers that are interesting out here, like an Alec Pierce, who's a free agent and whatever, but at this point, I would probably just be taking tight ends as they're the best value on the board in the tight end premium here. But I'll probably just take Chuba Hubbard here, honestly, guys. I think that's probably the safest pick. So I'll take Chuba just for the fun of it. Start stacking this running back room, and at that point, I'll probably let the rest of this bleed out. But why don't you guys look through this board real quick, take a nice gander at it, comment who you think had the best build here. I'm pretty happy with the team that I did here, outside the mistaken Luther Burden pick here. But again, I won't harp on it too much. But Trey McBride, Drake London, Rashee Rice. I got my two quarterbacks here before round 6. Breece Hall, nice little core foundation there to be competitive, but still have, the flexibility to move for the future. Take the upside of Travis Etienne here in the 8th round, which I think is fantastic value. I think he's going to sign a nice contract. He was RB10 this year. He's had an RB3 finish already. He's shown you that he can be a guy, and, he's only 26. He's still getting his very first running back deal here. So, you love to see that from Travis Etienne. Got the upside swing on a Zach Charbonnet down here. Was able to get 2 late first-round picks in here as well to, revamp the core of my roster. I think if anybody else here looking for an immediate contender, Malik Neighbors, Devon Achane, Garrett Wilson, CMC, Dak Prescott, A.J. Brown. That is a contending roster if I've ever seen one. But you still got the young guys up top here. Takes Bryce Young as a second quarterback, but gets 2 solid tight ends in Jake Ferguson and Kyle Pitts. DeAndre Swift, a nice little running back addition here, to kind of back up these 2 studs, and get Rico Dowdle later on, who will probably, be a somewhat of a touch split guy in the future, and Mac Jones, and then grabs a second round pick here. I think Nick Young did a good job on this one, so got to give him a shout out. MJ Walsh, as we mentioned earlier, man, he got a million wide receivers and then some. This board's running right now, so we're just going to let it keep running while I'm talking here. But, we've got guys like Ayuk and Efton Chisholm taking swings at, and Alec Pierce, a guy who I like and mentioned down there. Dallas Goedert's going now. At this point, like I said, I'm probably just continuing to smash running backs here. Is there any wide receivers I like? Nah, I'll just take, actually, you know what I will do for the fun of it? I'd take Tyreek Hill on the off chance he comes back and plays. Error making the pick? Oh, no, there we go. All right. Well, there you go. I took Tyreek Hill for the fun of it. If Tyreek Hill comes back, maybe I get a top 10 season out of him before he retires here. Doubtful, but, just for the fun of it. Again, I would have easily been taking real picks there, like some of these tight ends, if it was actually a real draft. But Trey Benson has fallen way down with this group. I think a lot of people are high on Trey Benson, but it looks like our group of folks here, myself included, are not. Guys like Blake Corum are on the board, and I think in certain drafts he's going to go a lot higher than others. I think a lot of people think he's a threat to Kyron. I personally don't view him that way, but J.K. Dobbins goes off the board there. Again, like I mentioned, if it was me, I would have just been taking running backs normally if I wasn't kind of messing around at this stage. Just to give a shout out to some other guys I like, later on in the draft here. I think Torrey Horton's got some nice upside. He was a dog at Colorado State and put Travis Hunter in the spin cycle a couple times there, and hasn't been talked about. But with all that being said, guys, it looks like we've come to a halt more or less on this draft. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the end recording button. Thank you so much for coming along with me. As I mentioned, if you are not already, please go ahead and drop a subscribe on the channel. We'll be doing these every single week for you guys. I hope you got some value out of this one. We got more trade shows coming at you, season in reviews coming at you, and a lot to look forward to the next couple weeks. So thank you guys so much for coming along, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a happy holidays.